Hello world, from whichever time zone you're catching me from, my name is MD90. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notification to all so that you do not miss the uploads that come up. And the easiest way for you to navigate the channel is to head to the playlist. You'll find videos curated for you based on your interest. So if you're interested in the Kutika podcast, you'll find a playlist for that. For news and trends, there's a playlist for that. Exclusive with MD90, a bunch of playlists that are created based on your interest. So the easiest way to navigate the channel is head straight to the playlist and you'll find what you're here for. Consider becoming a member of the channel. Right next to the subscribe button is a join button. You click on the join button so that you can become a member of the channel. You support the team on the production and a number of things that we're doing here, and we appreciate that.
Well, the Lumezi member of parliament is either trolling at this point or he knows something that the rest of the country doesn't know. So according to the Patriotic Front, about 30 minutes ago, they put up this post and they say, Lumezi member of parliament, Munia Zulu, has informed the Lusaka Magistrate Court that the missing Petauke member of parliament, Emmanuel J.J. Banda, will testify as a defense witness in his seditious practice case. So I do not know what Munia Zulu is doing here. It's either he's trolling, but then again, if he was just online trolling, I would understand, but taking that to court. But anyway, we wait and see if there's truth to this announcement that the Patriotic Front has said. Because as you may be aware, Munia Zulu has a seditious practice case going on in court, amongst other cases that he has. So he says in that particular case, JJ Banda will be the witness for him. So we wait and see if that happens. Because if you remember, as we started out 2025, Munia had announced to say JJ Banda was likely to do a national address right before the by-elections take place in Petauke, and that didn't happen. So maybe this is one of those instances again. And then Emmanuel Mwamba has updated the nation. He alleges to say 57 Zambia police officers removed from State House with immediate effect. And then he highlights that being informed that the police high command has directed the staff transfer of the following officers. And then he shares the outline of the officers that have been moved from State House to other parts of the country and other police stations. That's according to Emmanuel Mwamba's report there, and he attaches the documents coming from government. And he says the total number of the people that have been moved from State House, the police officers in particular, are 57. So people are having a conversation around that. A number of members of parliament have been doing live streams in response to this particular update. And it's an evolving story, pretty much a developing story. I'm sure our government will issue its own statement because the news is currently trending. What is the Patriotic Front Secretary General Raphael Nakachinda says, interact with all Zambians, not just with those in government. Nakachinda to visiting UN reporter. Patriotic Front General and Grand Alliance Secretary General Raphael Nakachinda has urged United Nations reporters to say the number of days that they're in the country is enough for them to get the right temperature of what is going on in the country, and like just relying on government reports. What is the Masheke Akashamba? This is the UPND Zambian based in the US. He was in the country recently. He says, have you guys noticed that Patriotic Front surrogates are not reporting the alleged human rights violations to China or Russia? And then he tags Emmanuel Mwamba, says, report to China, Kairi. Why are you running to the imperialist organization, United Nations Human Rights Commission? Was the imperialist organization until it wasn't? So he simply says, since the PF wants to put out an agenda to say they are more inclined to Russia and China, the government to the UN, those bodies that are more inclined to the West and the United States. And then he goes further to say, this is still Kashamba, says, in 2026, a lot of these members of PF, members of parliament, who will lose their seats. I am forecasting an increase in the number of in the number of United Party for National Development members of parliament in parliament. However, there will be a heightened risk of internal wrangles within the party for appointments in 2031. He says in 2031 will be fire. So he says yes. The the upcoming elections in 2026 are likely to be in the favor of the UPND, with them increasing the threshold in parliament in terms of representation. And they say the only wrangles that are likely to come from the UPND are after Hakainde Hichilema leaves government, according to him, after his second term in 2031. That's his analysis. Another UPND supporter from the US, Zambian based, is in the country. That's George Mutonga. And he has done a Dear Mr. President letter. So after coming back in the country, just like Akashamba was in the country in December, this guy has come now in January. And he wrote to President Hakainde Hichilema. So this is George Mutonga. He says, Hakainde Hichilema, have had the pleasure to quietly listen to people in Zambia as I visit the country to see family. The majority of my nieces and nephews have passed exams and have had the opportunity to prepare them for their school year. During the visit to grocery stores, I have personally seen how groceries have increased in prices. Let me give you an example. A person who was making 1,000 kwacha in 2021 was able to spend 16% of that money on meal meal. That same person is making 1,000 kwacha, but now spends 30% of their wages on meal meal. Their salaries have not been increased, and the same at the same pace as the cost of goods. Mr. President, he goes further. Mr. President, on government side, I see no option other than the increase of people's salaries by 30% across the board for them to afford the current to afford the current life. For the private sector, we need the Ministry of Labor to enforce labor laws in the country, while the national government aims at supporting job creation for the private sector by offering obligatory and the tax increments. Mr. President, I will tell you this for a fact. The economic life of a number of people is far much worse now than it was when you entered the presidency. This is the numerical fact. I have seen it. I've spent the money by buying things in Zambia. It's hard. So that's his analysis after coming back from the US. And his fellow Zambian based in the US, Sakashambata, responded immediately to that. He says, you're not being honest. The damage to the economy was grave. It will take a generation to fix it. Therefore, the policies Hakainde Hichilema is implementing will only bear its fruits in the next generation. We made mistakes to elect a patriotic front, thereby messing up 10 years of our economic growth. That's a response to that. So you can see the Zambian diaspora community having a back and forth with regard to how the UPND is performing. And George Mutonga goes further to say, the idea of progress is a painful idea that we are going through, and that we're going through because I may be on the brighter side. Future is obvious. I said this before. The United Party for National Development came into power that things will be painful. So he goes further to agree with that. That's George doing his rounds around Zambia, so that he gets the temperature of things, and then he goes further to say, people who live abroad should let those of us in Zambia tell them what is truly going on. If you are not in the country, you are not allowed to speak. I waited a very long time to be able to be in Zambia just to say that, because most of the Zambians have been telling the diaspora community to say they are very delusional and not in touch with reality on the ground. So they should just stay there and let the Zambians who are on the ground give them analysis. It goes further to say people in the diaspora think they know everything. Whoever the background are the ones who should be talking. Background, so he's simply trolling with that statement. So now that I'm back in the country, I'm the one who's able to give that analysis. And then if you remember, Munia Zulu at some point has posted, that's JJ Banda on the far right, Munia in the center, and then Nkana Member of Parliament, Mbini Wampundu on the left, with a caption saying incoming president, incoming vice president, and incoming secretary general of the future. All these that you see on screen where independent members of parliament. JJ's seat is now up for grabs. They're having a conversation. In fact, by-elections will be taking place shortly in February. And then Munia Zulu has also done almost like a Dear Mr. President. Seems like everybody's writing to the president today. So Munia says, this is the Lumezi independent member of parliament. He says, the state-sponsored confusion in the Patriotic Front, I will try to summarize what it means for an ordinary citizen to make sense of it. So, and then he goes further to say, when I was born, parents ordinarily will name the child at the right age, and the child will obtain his national registration card. The national registration ID from government department called the National Registration Center. Now imagine one knowing his name as Joseph, only to wake up one day that you are not Joseph and you cannot get a voter's card because the government has erased your identity and given it to someone else. If you had opened a bank account with money in it, then again, you are told that you are not the owner of the account. Imagine having a car registered in your own name, only to be told that government has changed the ownership without your consent. This may be seen only. This may be seen to only affect political space, but with time, details of one's identity will go missing if this ugly practice is not stopped. I remain Munia Zulu, he says. And then obviously, Akashamada has been very busy responding to everyone. He says on his campaign trail for President Hakainde Hichilema to be elected. So he responds to Munia Zulu, says, bro, this is the response to that, what Munia Zulu had put up there. So Akashambada says, bro, you are an independent member of parliament. PF is dead. It's never coming back. I do not know what part of that you do not get. It is over for Edgar Chagwa. We will never be president of Zambia again, ever. He puts that with an exclamation mark. You stand a chance of surviving by distancing yourselves from Patriotic Front. And then Muniazu responds immediately. It says, my fear is when the government is done with the Patriotic Front using Imingalato, then they will start to register citizens. Well, we shall end up being stateless, not whether the PF will survive or not. So that's his response. People having a back and forth with regard to that conversation there. And then Smart Eagle Sports Empire 2031, obviously referring to the state of the economy and the campaign trail that Hakainde Hichilema had used, the Pamela cooking oil, you can see there. That's on the Smart Eagles. And then also Binu Mpundu, this is another independent member of parliament. He has also done a Dear Mr. President, but his version is a video. So he did a live stream just about 27 minutes ago, where he addressed the president. He says, Dear Mr. President, Dear President Hakainde Hichilema. And then he explains what's going on at State House, the alleged removal of those police officers, and then he alleges to say it's likely linked to tribal lines. That's why people are questioning it. So he tabulates a number of things to say government should clarify. When you look at the list that Emmanuel Mwamba looked at, that's what is Emmanuel Mwamba talked about. That's what he's referring to. And then government welcomes UN special rapporteur. Pretty much that's what Rafael Nakashinda had referred to earlier on. State permits Edgar Chagwa to travel out for medical checkup. So it seems like the state has allowed former president to leave the country for his medical checkup. That's according to the Daily Nation. And then phone hacking cartel unearthed. That's in the Daily Mail. What else is in the newspaper? Police will be Hakainde Hichilema's downfall, Reverend Mulenga. You are too obsessed with one job, Zeda a chair. So according to that analysis, it says Hakainde Hichilema is the use of the police. That's in the Daily Revelation. That's the news, ladies and gentlemen.